You're listening to The Educator's Edge with me, Lisa Ellum, the Educator's Advocate. This is the podcast where we unpack the art and science of adult learning, share real stories, and explore practical ways to sharpen our skills as teachers, trainers, and coaches of grown-ups.
Hello, and welcome back to the Educator's Edge, the space where we rethink what it really means to teach grown-ups well. I'm Lisa Ellum, and as we come to the end of the year, we find ourselves in a season that invites us into something deeper. Advent. Advent is traditionally a time of waiting, preparing, opening to possibility. And for us as educators, it's also a moment for emotional and professional rest. A moment to protect the roots of the passion that has brought us into teaching adults in the first place. A moment to let go of the to-do list, to slow our teacher brains and allow our soul thinking to rise. A moment to ask questions, big questions of ourselves. What kind of educator am I becoming? And what kind of learning do I want to lead next year? And what kind of learning do I want to do? So let's start with talking about the Advent mindset in teaching adults. We talk about this time as a pause point, more so in Australia than in the US and in some other countries. We tend to have a longer break in our summer, and it's an opportunity to pause and pause that cycle of teaching and learning. It's an opportunity to reflect and to build expectation for the coming year through our preparation. But it's also about compassion, like real compassion, the type of compassion that invites us back to presence, to humility, to humanity. So it's a really important time for us to stop and rest. I had a principal at one of the schools I used to teach at, and he used to say that this is a really important time of year for rest and recreation, because in order to be switched on as a teacher, we need to really feed ourselves and nurture ourselves through resting and recreation. So I hope you can schedule some time to have some compassion and humility for your own humanity. Gifts and the gifts of teaching are both great and dangerous. So if we think about imagination as being one of our greatest gifts, and yet it was the imagination of scientists that, discovered gravity. And it was the imagination of other scientists that discovered nuclear fission, the nuclear bomb. So our passions, our imaginations, they can be the greatest gifts, or they can be destructive. They can create or destroy. So the question is, our ideas leading us towards the divine gifts of the profession, or towards burnout, cynicisms, depletion even. We've got to use our imagination and our awareness with discipline and gentleness. We've got to give ourselves time to let our imagination reconnect. What is it that you like to do creatively with your imagination? Are you a dreamer or are you a doer? Are you somebody that likes to exercise and surf Or are you somebody that likes to paint and read? We relax in all different ways. We're all different people. We have different approaches to teaching and learning because we are different. And we need to be quite mindful of that, that we are looking after truly what is our need. So let's talk about emotional and professional rest. You've heard the adage, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And yet, sometimes as educators, we often try. We need to rest not just our bodies, but we need to rest our judgment, our creativity, our clarity, our compassion, and our identity as educators. We need to protect those roots of our passions in an intentional practice. Let the roots breathe, let the soil replenish so that passion for teaching and learning will be self-generating. It will continue to grow. So let's talk about nurturing the seeds of our teaching soul. Reflect on the seed. On the weekend, we've had a lot of rain here on the east coast of Australia. And I've planted some miniature plum trees in my garden. I knew it was going to rain, so I thought it was all going to line up well. But the seeds have come from my father's trees. And he got his seeds from his father's tree, who got them from his father's tree, all around the north coast of New South Wales. But the power of a seed is quite incredible when you can see that this tree can grow and produce fruit, and then it plants other seeds to produce more trees and more fruits in different generations. And I truly believe that's what our teaching soul is about. It's not just the job title, it's not a qualification. However, I do believe that, teaching is an art and a science, and that teachers need to marry the art with the science. But for me,
Thanks for joining me on the
teaching
Educator's
is
Edge,
learning
where
how to
art
plant
meets
that
science
seed,
and natural teachers
how
build
to
skills. If you
cultivate
enjoyed this
curiosity
episode, follow along for
and
more
care
conversations about teaching
and
grown-ups well.
growth
Until next time,
and
keep
knowledge
learning, keep
and
leading, and
justice
keep
and
teaching
love.
with heart.
Because these seeds become expansive through their growth. They can be planted deep. It can be a strategic way of leading. I don't see that there's much difference between teaching and leading, leading and teaching. To be a good teacher, you need to be a leader. To be a good leader, you need to be a good teacher. We need to refine this discipline strategically through how we lead, to develop resilience, to know that we're not perfect. Learners aren't perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fall, but have that capacity to adjust and adapt and evolve. It takes a lot of work. And where do I want to go next year? I've enjoyed these podcasts this year. And I want to look at how we can pivot the educator's edge to a future dream, a future direction, and be more inclusive. I talk about the importance of community in education, the importance of joy, the importance of knowing yourself. I want to really look at building the educator's edge as a community of teachers and trainers and coaches and lecturers and facilitators who share what we know to be true about adult learning, a space for wisdom, a space for real talk, that generous reciprocity, imagination with boundaries, leadership with heart, learning that transforms. I truly believe that the more that we can support educators who are teaching adults, whether they be in universities or at TAFE or at the workplace or in general life, then we're actually building a stronger world for the future generations. It's a really important job. And I want to build a following. I want to build that community of experts. So the invitation to you in 2026 is to reach out to me if you want to be on the podcast, or you have an idea, or you might know a guest, or if you just want to be a guest or to be part of a conversation or to be part of a new community. If you want to be a voice for shaping the profession, I want to hear from you. Next year, I want voices from the field, including yours. So send me an email, get in touch on social media. Let me know what you think and what you need. So as we close this episode and this year, I want to leave you with this. Teaching adults is sacred work. You carry knowledge, experience, compassion, curiosity, and imagination. These are your gifts, powerful, luminous, and capable of shining good in the world and shaping the world for good. So this season, let yourself rest. Let the soil of your soul soften. Let the seeds of your calling breathe again. And when we step into the new year, we'll step in it together with generosity, with clarity, and with a renewed commitment to giving educators the edge they deserve. I believe that good teachers are learners. If you feel called to share your story or your wisdom on this podcast next year, please send me a message. I'd love to have your voice at the table. Thank you for teaching grown-ups well. Thank you for the work that you do in the world. And I shall see you next year.